So loving this conference and very happy to be here. My name is Carrie Fisher. I work at GitHub as a senior accessibility program manager, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm a white woman with shoulder-length blondish hair and blue eyes.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jesse Dugas. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a tall white man with short black hair and a tightly trimmed full black beard. I'll also introduce Ed Summers, head of accessibility at GitHub as well. Ed wishes he could make it today. However, he's currently in Morristown, New Jersey at the Seeing Eye, working with his new Seeing Eye puppy, Loki, the German Shepherd featured on the screen.
I just want to make sure before we keep going, Jesse, we are sharing our slides because I don't see them in the interface details.
Yes, I am sharing this screen. Is that
There.
not? Let me try again.
There you go. I can see it now. Yay.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Let me make sure that that's in there again.
You're showing the demo now.
Yep. Hold on one second. Sorry.
It's hard being the first talk at the, besides the keynotes, of course, at the top of the hour on the first day, right after a long holiday. So apologies. Here is a photo on the screen of Ed Summers, head of accessibility at GitHub, with his new seeing eye dog, Loki. All right. So today we're going to do, on a high level, talk about what is GitHub Copilot. We're going to go over the accessibility of the GitHub Copilot interface. We're going to touch on some AI pitfalls in accessibility and really the need for including the humans in the loop and just using GitHub Copilot to improve accessibility. We want to set expectations that the demos that you're going to see today, this is at current as of last week, right? So it is an ever-changing, emerging technology. So the demos, or if you try it out on yourself, with yourself later on using Copilot, your presentation or what you see in the interface might be a little bit different. The accessibility features shouldn't change too much that we'll talk about today, but we just want to kind of give the audience a heads up on that. And also, this is a high level talk and we're going to talk about the things we just kind of mentioned on a high level, but there's so much more that we can talk about beyond when it comes to AI and complexity and ways that you can use it. So definitely reach out to us. Jesse will give us links to how to contact us and also a blog post that's relevant to this as well. So you should have all those kinds of resources at the ready as well. Jesse, anything else to add before I jump into talking about GitHub Copilot?
No, I think that was great. I think just calling out again that any of the prompts that you see here, any of the demos, anything like that, if you try it on your own in your own environment, it's an AI model, large language model, right? It's going to be different. So I think that was a great call out and excited to show y'all a little bit about GitHub Copilot.
Awesome. All right. So without any more hesitation, let's jump into what is GitHub Copilot. So for those who are new, and I was new to GitHub Copilot when I joined GitHub a few months back, so I got to really see it with fresh eyes and kind of look at it and start to understand like the things that it can do, maybe some limitations around it as well. So on a very high level, GitHub Copilot is an AI tool that you can use to help write better code. It's that simple, right? GitHub Copilot functions as an AI coding assistant. It offers code completions as you type and transforms natural language prompts into actual suggestions. So many IDEs or integrated development environments like Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio, JetBrains, Vim, NeoVim, Azure Data Studio use GitHub Copilot. Additionally, select features are available within github.com, and that helps facilitate for a smooth coding experience across various platforms. So I think we've all been there, all us developers, right? At one time, we've been deep in the code and we've been thinking about things and we encounter a tricky segment and we're not quite sure about the syntax or maybe the next logical step that we want to put forward, right? Instead of spending hours scouring the internet for solutions, GitHub Copilot can step in as your coding companion. It can analyze your code context, your project structure, and even the natural language comments you've added along the way. And so it takes all of that information and it intelligently suggests relevant code snippets, functions, or even entire blocks of code that seamlessly fit into your project. But GitHub Copilot is not just about suggesting code snippets. It also provides explanations. It provides insights into the code you're working with. So whether you're trying to understand someone else's code or unraveling a complex piece of logic in your own project, GitHub Copilot can act as that knowledgeable guide. It can break down the code into understandable language and offer insights into its functionality. The thing that I think is really cool, especially with the education focus that I'm in, it can act as an interactive instructor. It can provide guidance and assistance in overcoming coding hurdles. So it offers that personalized support and can respond to questions. It can aid in learning various coding scenarios. Additionally, GitHub Copilot serves as a valuable learning tool by providing immediate feedback, suggesting solutions, and offering insights into coding principles and conventions. And that, in theory, right, it enhances your proficiency in the coding practices. Once you learn how to do a certain, coding, solve a certain coding puzzle, then you've learned that. And then in the future, you're kind of building off of that and can become more complex. So I've seen even beginners use this and for a learning resource. And related to that, it is also itself an ever-growing and learning resource for developers. So GitHub Copilot is continuously evolving. It integrates a vast amount of natural language text and source code from publicly accessible repositories. And then it leverages this extensive knowledge base and it enhances its ability to assist in code composition and problem solving. So not only does it teach you, it is learning itself. It is a student and a teacher. And so it's continuously evolving.
Just to add a little bit to that, Carrie, as well, it
Sure.
continuously evolves within your personal workspace as well. So whether you are coming into a legacy project that has a lot of files and functions are set up in certain ways, or whether you're starting a new workspace and, as you develop structure and patterns, GitHub Copilot picks up on those and will start to suggest suggestions in that format as well.
Mhm.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, actually, I learned that not too long ago, and I didn't even know it did that. So it's learning from you as well as the vast world that we're out there. All right, so let's move on to the next slide, and let's talk a little bit about the interface and the accessibility of the GitHub Copilot interface. Because first and foremost, to empower people with lived experience, we need to make sure that the tool itself has some accessibility features built into it and that it's easy and intuitive to use. And again, it is a ongoing development features and projects that's continuously evolving itself internally. So a lot of these will continue to be prioritized, like the things we're going to talk about today. But we will see new features roll out in the months to come. So definitely stay tuned and keep your eye on this. It's continuously evolving. So GitHub Copilot is thoughtfully designed with an emphasis on accessibility, as I mentioned, and it offers a range of features to ensure usability for all users. From intuitive navigation options to customizable interface elements, GitHub Copilot prioritizes inclusivity in its development process. So the first kind of high-level accessibility feature we're going to talk about is screen reader support. Again, as Ed is very strong advocate for all screen reader users, as he is one himself, and we have internal people with lived experience and who use screen readers daily, also contributing to this as well as research and other things going on. So we really take that into consideration when this what am I trying to say? Copilot is being developed, right? So in this initial video, what we're going to do is we're going to actually observe one of those observations with a person with lived experience, utilizing their screen reader and interacting with GitHub Copilot and Visual Studio Code. So as you see in the demo, they'll navigate the interface and the actions are visually described to illustrate their interactions. So you'll hear Jesse in a voiceover situation, but positioned at the bottom right of the screen on the demo, the NVDA speech viewer will display that real-time output from the screen reader. So you'll be able to visually kind of follow along, but we definitely, fire up your own screen reader at home and try it out and see how it works for you as well. But let's show our demo real quick, Jesse.
Yeah, just to add on a little bit to that, I think it's really impressive and it speaks to the commitment of the team to make our tools accessible in all facets, but it doesn't meet just the minimum requirements. So a lot of the enhancements you'll see in this demo are go beyond just the minimum requirements and go into usable and actual useful features. So let's view the demo. Starting out, we have a sample JavaScript function we have started to write, attempting to calculate the number of days between two dates. As we finish typing the start of our function, we are prompted by GitHub Copilot that there is a suggestion available, which we can open in the accessible view to review that suggestion. To take this suggestion one step further, we can actually ask GitHub Copilot to generate even more suggestions on this code, which will open all possible suggestions in a separate tab. After reviewing which we like best, we can accept the solution in the Suggestions tab and have our code immediately present in our test.js. The next feature we will showcase is using inline chat. Selecting what code we want GitHub Copilot to reference, we can ask it to provide comments to our code, to provide a breakdown and show what each part of the function is doing. After evaluating the suggestions, we can quickly hit the Accept button at the bottom of the inline dialog, and our new code with comments is quickly and seamlessly added. Visual Studio Code provides plenty of alternative ways to trigger features with GitHub Copilot. Cycling through the command palette, some of the options include actions such as GitHub Copilot, explain this code, generate docs, fix this code, and much more. For our purposes, we are going to select the last feature we will be highlighting, Ask GitHub Copilot, which will bring up the interface of the separate extension GitHub Copilot Chat. From here, we can ask pointed questions about our code or help us generate new code. In this example, we will ask GitHub Copilot Chat to use the workplace as context and explain how to use the function we just wrote. GitHub Copilot generates its reply with a code example, showcasing how you can use the function with real data to verify that it is working as intended. All code snippets can be inserted into your Active tab right at the point of your cursor. This is just one small sample of the power that GitHub Copilot and GitHub Copilot Chat can bring all users.
I love it. Thank you, Jesse, so much for that demo and the voiceover on that. You sound very excited about all the things that it could do. Appreciate it. You can be an announcer if this, whole developer thing doesn't work out for you. All right, so
Thank you.
let's move on.
I try my best.
It's good. It's great. Okay, so that is a little snippet of what you can do with your screen reader. As I said, try it out at home and see what you see. And then obviously there's various different types of screen readers and other ATs that you could try it out on. And we're always looking for feedback and suggestions on how to improve it. So that is just a small little sample, but let's move on because of course we know that there are many other people too that have other AT needs, including keyboard accessibility. So Visual Studio Code has a built-in keyboard accessibility, and that allows developers to navigate both the code and the GitHub Copilot suggestions, both solely on keyboard commands and shortcuts. This functionality is particularly beneficial for developers with motor disabilities, as it eliminates the needs for mouse interaction. As someone who often battles numb fingers and numb and crunchy fingers is what I call it for carpal tunnel syndrome that I have. I'm almost exclusively a keyboard only user, and this kind of AT support is really critical for me. And I prefer not to tab 100 tab stops when 10 will do. So this is really pretty exciting for me in particular, but a lot of other people as well. Including Jesse. So in the next video, we're actually going to watch Jesse explore Visual Studio Code keyboard accessibility and GitHub Copilot's navigation, enhance the coding experience. And he is a primary keyboard user for non-carpal tunnel syndrome reasons, but it doesn't, it benefits both of us. And he can seamlessly navigate the code, and you can utilize GitHub Copilot suggestions using only those keyboard commands. That really showcases the effectiveness of these accessibility features and enabling developers to fully engage with coding without relying on that mouse or touch interaction.
Great. Thanks for that setup, Carrie. Let me just pull in that demo. Starting out, we have an empty index.html and sample CSS file within Visual Studio Code, and a browser on the right to showcase any changes we make. This demo will showcase using GitHub Copilot and GitHub Copilot Chat using keyboard controls and commands only. Upon creation of the index.html file, your editor presents us with a message stating that pressing Command plus I, since I am on a Mac, to ask GitHub Copilot Chat to do something, or to start typing to dismiss. For our purposes in this demo, I'm going to skip this prompt and instead add in a starter code for an HTML5 doc type by using the emit command in Visual Studio Code and simply modify our title tag to say My Sample Web Page. I'm going to start by simply adding in our style sheet with our predefined styles and heading to the body tag and adding in a header as where we're going to start. I'm going to start typing in H1 and GitHub Copilot quickly suggests my heading level 1 should be My Sample Web Page taken from my title tag. We can hit Tab to accept that. Refreshing our web page, that looks like a good start, but let's add in a navigation to our sample page. Using Command I or Control I on Windows, I can open the GitHub Copilot inline chat. From here, I will simply ask it to help me create a navigation with 3 items in it: Home, About, and Contact pages. In just a moment, we are presented with a solution directly in our sample code, highlighted in green, and the ability to quickly accept, decline, or regenerate the suggestion. The code looks great to me, so I'm going to accept it by hitting the Return or Enter key. As we refresh, we can see that that is looking great. Lastly, let's work on something a little bit more complex. Let's open the separate GitHub Copilot chat using Shift Command I, and let's ask it, what is the best way in HTML to create a hero image that is responsive and from Unsplash, a royalty-free image website? GitHub Copilot Chat generates a step-by-step guide for us to follow, but it has added the class inline and style tags in the head of the HTML file. This is because we asked for it to be only in HTML. Let's inform GitHub Copilot Chat we have an external style sheet. Great. GitHub Copilot Chat has updated their code, so we can just drop the class into our CSS now. So let's copy that new class and add it to our CSS file. Let's head back to our index.html and open back GitHub Copilot Chat, copying the portion that we need and pasting it into our code. Save and reload. And that's looking great. This is just one small sample of the power that GitHub Copilot and GitHub Copilot Chat can bring all users.
Awesome. Thank you again, Jesse, for that demo. We did have a question about demos, and these were pre-recorded just so we could make sure that it looked exactly how we wanted to and could showcase some of the accessibility features we're talking about. But we can certainly share those demos with you. Again, keeping in mind that mileage may vary, right? As the product keeps being underdeveloped and evolving, it may be slightly different than when you do it live yourself. So just kind of keep that in mind, but we can certainly share those demos with you. All right, so that's a little bit highlight of keyboard accessibility. We have so many other accessibility features in Visual Studio Code that have that integrated GitHub Copilot, including the high contrast themes. So Visual Studio Code offers high contrast themes that enhance the readability for people with visual impairments. This includes making text, including code segments from GitHub Copilot, more discernible. When we first ran the first demos, the color contrast wasn't so great, and that was the first thing I noticed. I said, Jesse, I can't read this. Let's bump that up and make it pop a little bit more, especially in the smaller window that we get for the demo. So again, you can adjust those things on your own machine. The other thing you can do is that you can customize the zoom level and the font size in Visual Studio Code to help improve the readability, making both the code and the GitHub Copilot suggestions easier to read. So again, you might have your preferred font family or typography, version. So you can put those in, you can take a look. There's a lot of different options. English and ESL, English as a second language, education, sorry, and ESL. GitHub Copilot serves as a valuable tool for beginners and also non-native English speakers. By providing real-time code suggestions, GitHub Copilot aids in understanding coding structures and syntax, acting as an interactive tutor, and we talked about that a little bit. But for non-native English speakers, GitHub Copilot actually helps reduce that language barrier by offering context-based suggestions and allows users to interact with GitHub Copilot in their native language. So that helps facilitate faster learning and skill development. And the last one we're going to touch on today on a high level is neurodivergencies. So GitHub Copilot can be particularly beneficial for individuals with neurodivergencies because it offers support in navigating coding challenges. It also suggests code completion. It helps reduce anxiety. It fosters confidence in coding exploration. So for those who struggle with conventional learning methods and are more hands-on, GitHub Copilot offers that alternative approach, providing that real-time chat support and that context-based suggestions for a more hands-on learning experience. This aspect really makes learning coding akin to having like a supportive tutor, always available to offer assistance and a fresh perspective. And just closing out this section, I want to talk about a couple of real-life examples, not scripted, like real life. So with those accessibility features, highlighted in the GitHub Copilot interface, its true power lies in its ability to empower individuals to pursue their passions and boost productivity. And so example of Ed Summers, our manager, he used GitHub Copilot to develop an accessible tic-tac-toe game tailored for screen reader users. So with GitHub Copilot's assistance, he was able to complete the project within a few hours and gained a lot of clarity on the implementation process and benefits from its insightful coding suggestions. Similarly, Jesse, who had no prior experience, used GitHub Copilot to create a Chrome extension aimed at improving online text readability for his friends. From scoping to browser integration, Jesse was able to complete that project in under an hour, and it really showcased the GitHub Copilot's ability to facilitate that rapid development and empower users to achieve their goals efficiently. I saw the demo actually that Jesse made, and it was pretty cool. I'm hoping that he publishes that one because I think a lot of people could use that one as well. Jesse,
As soon as
anything to
I
add? What?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say as soon as I figure out how to update the Google Manifest to version 3 or whatever it may be, but I think GitHub Copilot can probably help me with that. So
Probably.
uh,
Yeah.
coming soon, an extension near you for Google Chrome users to help reading long bits of text online. But no, I think that you summed it up great, Carrie. I think that again, GitHub Copilot has so much power and the ability to really just empower our users, honestly, right? Kind of like what we've been mentioning. And I'm excited for, the future as we see what people continue to do with it. As a bit of a segue to that, I think we need to talk about the elephant maybe in the room, right? And a little bit about AI pitfalls in accessibility and the need for humans in the loop. Excuse me. I may be periodically muting as I am coming over a bit of a cold, so I have to cough. So apologies for that. AI tools like GitHub Copilot, ChatGPT, and others have the potential to significantly enhance accessibility with appropriate guidance and coaching. However, it's crucial to remain mindful of certain considerations while using these tools. Bias, for example. AI models often exhibit biases that mirror the biases found in their training data. A lot of the world's code by default is not accessible. It's worth noting that the data might not accurately represent the diversity of your project, of all individuals, especially those with lived experience or disabilities. This limitation can greatly affect the accuracy of the AI model's generated results. Ethics. In order to create an AI system that is fair and inclusive, it's crucial to consider the needs of all individuals. as we just mentioned. We must ensure that the training data includes a wide range of people, including those with lived experiences, so that the AI system does not inadvertently exclude or mistreat anyone. Hallucinations. You may have heard this term floating around in the AI space. If you don't know what it is, sometimes in large language models, AI can generate information with such a high level of confidence that it might seem believable, but is actually inaccurate or potentially even harmful. One area where this tends to occur more frequently is in accessibility-related topics. It's critical and super important to be aware of this possibility and take steps to address it, which we'll mention later in this presentation. Dependence. While AI can greatly enhance our productivity, it's important to keep in mind that it should not be seen as a solution to everything. We should not rely on AI alone, as it is simply just a tool. Instead, we need to remember to consider our project requirements, our scope, and that user testing is still prevalent to ensure the best outcomes. Let's take a look at a demo that demonstrates the effectiveness of prompt engineering. This demo will showcase several concepts that we will introduce into aiding and overcoming the obstacles that we just mentioned, and how we can maximize the potential of AI while searching for accessible solutions. In this demo, we will showcase GitHub Copilot Chat and the power of prompt engineering. We're going to start with a simple prompt and then add more details to it step by step. This will show us how to use GitHub Copilot Chat and similar tools more effectively. We'll focus on being clear about what we want from it and making sure we use reliable sources for our answers. It's also important to ask for extra information when we need it and informing the tool when it may be wrong. By slowly adding more to our initial prompt, we'll see how a few changes can make a big difference in the answers that we get. Let's start by asking for a simple HTML table. We can see that GitHub Copilot Chat quickly generates an HTML file for us that contains a very basic table with some missing elements, like a t-body element. It answers our question, but we can go deeper. Let's ask it to make us a data table. We can see already that with additional context, GitHub Copilot Chat recognizes its need for additional fields and even mentions how to achieve greater accessibility and how it's added additional elements such as t-head and t-body. But how can we ensure this meets all accessibility requirements? How do we know what is presented to us is accurate if we didn't already know? Let's ask GitHub Copilot Chat to make the table more accessible. Love that it calls out the importance of accessibility in web development. Now, let's see what it adds. It looks like it added the caption element and scope attributes to the th elements. This certainly looks good, but how can we be sure this is correct and that the product isn't hallucinating? Let's add in a prompt, something to set the stage, to inform GitHub Copilot Chat on how to act, how to code, what to reference, and how to provide references of its own work so we can check it. This prompt and its breakdown is available in the GitHub blog post, Prompting GitHub Copilot Chat to Become Your Personal AI Assistant for Accessibility. Now that we have verified it understands its mission, let us ask it to make the data table more accessible and show its work with references. Excellent. It looks like we have well-written, accessible code for a data table, and we can verify its work with reputable sources. This is just one small sample of GitHub Copilot Chat and how it can assist all users with valuable information. Great demo, Me. Thanks so much for that.
I was going to
Uh,
say that was a great demo. One thing I was going to add to this, and I know some of the prompting is hard to read, so we definitely have a link to that blog post. I think it's already posted on the conference website, but we'll also post it in the chat for anyone who needs it. I'm actually visiting family who not don't know a little enough about technology. They were asking about my talk today about AI. The Jesse and I's talk today about AI. And I gave him an analogy of a hammer being a tool, right? And hammer isn't as a tool isn't inherently good or bad. It's just a tool. It's just a hammer. If you use it to, in the appropriate way, in the appropriate context, in the appropriate environment, let's say you're making a bird house and you've got a nail and you're just hammer using it like you would use a hammer, it does the job. It does what it needs to do. It produces a great product, and at the end, you can be proud of your hard work. But if you use the hammer in the context of trying to screw in a screw into the wood, that's not what it's made for. You're not using it in the correct way. It's not the right tool for the job. And so we really talked about AI being that, right? It can be a tool for not again, not good or bad. There's not like inherent value in that, but it's either the right tool in the right circumstance within the right environment. And I think that's what that demo really shows, Jesse, in the very end is like, if I just ask for a table, I'm going to get code. Just like if I looked on the internet and I just looked for a code for a table, I'm going to get a lot of ideas. And then I narrow it with that prompting, and then I get a little bit more specific. And then I say, hey, I want this resource. I'm controlling the environment and those contexts and adding a lot more contextual information to that AI tool to make it the most effective and useful tool. So it's the right tool for the job and the right environment. So I think it's an appropriate analogy, and that's kind of for people maybe who are thinking of AI in terms of negative connotations or worried about the implications. Like there's a lot to it. And of course, that is true, but that is true of any tool used in the wrong context and without the right parameters in place.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Carrie. Right tool for the right job. I really do appreciate that. And we'll talk a little bit about it too, but making sure that it has the right steps and you doing the due diligence to make sure that whatever you have generated from whatever AI tool is good and meets your project requirements and again kind of has the right directions and the right setup for like the hammering that nail rather than trying to screw a nail with a hammer. I love that. So to that end, we can talk a little bit more about using GitHub Copilot to improve accessibility, right? Kind of showcasing a little bit of what we had in that demo, the power of prompting engineering, and a little bit of what Carrie was just talking about. By giving some extra consideration on how we use those tools like GitHub Copilot and others, we can significantly enhance the outcome of our projects and of what is generated. In particular, when considering accessibility. Breaking down that demo and going a little bit more into that detail, there are many ways you can use GitHub Copilot to enhance your accessibility across your projects. Creating effective prompts, right? Including detailed context, like we showed in the demo. Setting expectations and specific requirements, for example, adhering to WCAG 2.1 or 2.2 standards in your prompts can assist in narrowing the focus of GitHub Copilot. It now knows it's drilled down. Oh, I think I matched the ASL. That was kind of cool. Anyway, specify the requirement of using reliable and reputable sources such as w3.org in the prompts to ensure accuracy and reliability in the generated output. Humans in the loop. Regularly check the information provided by AI tools. Ask for sources and references to validate the accuracy of this data. Treat the AI tool as a junior team member. As a lead developer, it's your responsibility to ensure the AI suggestions align with the project standards and ethics. Strong testing plans. Test AI-generated solutions against the project requirements to ensure they meet both functional and accessible requirements. Involve real testers in the testing process, right? Like this can't be overstated. It's just test with people with lived experiences, test with people of all kinds. It doesn't matter. It needs to be tested correctly and effectively to address their needs and enhance accessibility. And continuous improvement, right? If the initial prompts don't yield the desired results, like we've seen in some of the demos here today, refine them. Experiment with different phrasing, offer sample answers, or introduce with new contextual information. Again, we mentioned that GitHub Copilot looks through your workspace for patterns and syntax structure. Engage in that back and forth dialogue with GitHub Copilot and challenge it with different scenarios to derive the most effective solutions. During the demo, we mentioned our blog post about transforming GitHub Copilot chat into your own personal AI assistant for accessibility. The blog post provides a deeper explanation of the prompt we used during the demo, as well as an additional example and additional examples, I should say, of how to engineer effective and accessible solutions. The URL for the blog post will be shared in the chat and will also be available on our session page. So that was a lot of information at once. And we know that there are going to be questions, so we're going to save some time for that, but we're going to wrap it up a little bit here and just kind of reiterate that GitHub Copilot is an AI coding assistant that provides code completions and actionable suggestions by analyzing code context and natural language prompts. It's compatible with popular IDEs and coding platforms. GitHub Copilot prioritizes inclusivity by offering features such as screen reader support, keyboard accessibility, and other additional accessibility options in Visual Studio Code. While AI tools like GitHub Copilot hold promise for accessibility, it's essential to address biases, ethical considerations, and the risk for generating inaccurate information. Maintaining human oversight and testing plans can mitigate these risks and ensure the tools align with accessible standards. Crafting effective prompts involving humans in the loop and implementing robust testing plans are crucial steps in maximizing the accessibility benefits of GitHub Copilot. Continuous improvement through experimentation and dialogue with the tool can further enhance accessible outcomes in development. GitHub Copilot and GitHub Copilot Chat have the potential to empower people to do the work they want to do responsibly and with increased accessibility. Carrie and I want to thank everyone for joining us today and for your commitment to making more accessible projects. We've covered a lot of ground. You probably have questions. If we don't get to your question during this session, feel free to reach out to Carrie, Ed, or myself afterward. Let's keep the conversation going and remember to check the GitHub blog for latest updates. And again, just to kind of summarize in this presentation, all content and demos that you've seen today are relevant as of February 2024 and are subject to change as early as today or even tomorrow. Thank you so much. Carrie, do you have anything left to add?
No, just thank you again for the opportunity. And it's been great. Thank you.
All right. We have a number of questions coming in, as you predicted. I'm going to take them from the most upvoted down the list. So to start, the first question I have for you guys, also compliments to both the speakers for timing it impeccably. This is amazing. As a speaker who often goes over, I really appreciate that as a moderator. So most upvoted question is, can GitHub Copilot suggest accessibility improvements to an existing code base without learning bad accessibility practices from non-conforming code?
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
answer. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, going straight over to Jesse and all the prompts, go for it.
Yeah, I think with the proper context setting, again, adhering to those rules and saying, hey, I want you to reference these top sources and provide references yourself, you can double check its work. But I think, yes, it can create pretty accessible code on any project that you're working on and any coding language. It's just, you can't solely rely on it and hope it's good. You have to check it against the project plan. You have to get it in front of users. Ultimately, I think the answer is yes. It's just, you need to verify.
Yeah, I'm going to add on to what Jesse was saying and on the demos, because in the demos we say go out to W3C, WCAG, 2.1. But you can also have internal sources where you've already predefined how you interpret that success criteria and what accessible, component or code means for your organization. So you can tap on to or tag on to multiple different sources. So it doesn't have to just be external. There could be things that you define beyond what you can get externally, right? Internal resources.
Absolutely. And even copy pasting something that you know from a reputable source where you're like, I really like how they implemented accessible code in this way. Maybe it makes it
Mhm.
even more usable, right, than just the minimum required accessibility. And you can reference, say, hey, I want my projects to be set up in this way. And GitHub Copilot can quickly
Yeah.
generate your code in that format. It's really cool.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point too, to what Jesse just said. It's not just about, conformance. It could be about usability. It could be what you found internally in your research or what a user has reported. So yeah, endless possibilities.
Absolutely. The minimum requirement would be like things like WCAG 2.1, 2.2, et cetera,
Mhm.
but highly suggest going beyond that for the usability, right? And verifying it with user tests and making more accessible code will give more accessible training data. So you're going to help everybody.
Well said. Thank you for that. The next highest upvoted question is, are WCAG violations included in the Copilot responses to code smell prompts?
Sorry, what was that last part?
So I'm not 100% following. So are WCAG violations included in the Copilot responses to code smell prompts?
Code smell?
Yeah, which is
I'm
I
not sure what that is, if I'm being
it's
honest,
like if
but
if code is poorly written, it's code smell, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I know we have a lot of linters in place. And so again, depending on how you have it set up, we have a linting system, tapping into, Axe core and things like that, the API. And so there's ways to, if you're, I guess in that context of like sniffing out bad code, you could have a linter integrated into your chat, your Copilot, I should say GitHub Copilot chat interface, right? Let's be legal here, so I don't get in trouble. But yeah, so I mean, you could do that too as one of your internal sources. So again, you've maybe used an API just like Axe Core, but you may have added additional internal linter rules as well. So you could integrate that. I don't believe it is by default. Jesse, could you
yeah,
confirm?
it's sort of mixed, right? It won't
Hmm.
specifically call out that information, but a lot of the time it has those rules sort of built in. Again, in our prompt that is in the blog post as well as in the demos and kind of everywhere else today, when mentioning adhering to things like WCAG 2.1 and the link and stuff like that, you'll notice the references provided actually go to specific pages within WCAG.
Hmm.
So if you kind of do that upfront work, it can kind of show you, okay, I did X, Y, Z, and here are the reasons why from WCAG as an actual source. So again,
Hmm.
doing that little bit of initial prompt engineering in the beginning can go a long way, especially in identifying stinky code, which I like now as a phrase.
Code smell.
Code
Um,
smell.
Nice.
yep.
Code
I've
smell.
been told my code has smelled bad in the past, so no shame on me.
I'm sure mine is too.
I was gonna say, isn't that the worst though when you're like, who wrote this code? And then you do a get blame and you're like, oh
It's
yeah, that
me.
was me.
I'm the
Oh
problem.
yeah.
Sorry.
It's me.
It was me like
Exactly.
2 days ago. How do I not remember that?
That never
Um,
happens, no.
no. And the next one's a nice philosophical question. I like this question. So, do you think AI such as this will result in developers becoming less skilled or more skilled over time? Will it make it possible for unskilled or inexperienced devs to do trickier stuff? Will it stop devs from needing to learn stuff as they can rely on AI? A lot to unpack there.
Oh, I love that question personally. If I can
All
go
right, you
first, Carrie.
go for it. Yeah.
There's so many aspects to that question. One, I don't think that it's going to hurt the devs of the world in certain ways, at least not now, because it's a
Mhm.
tool, right? It's not a replacement. You're still going to have to do the work. You're still going to have to verify it works. You're still going to have to do the big strategic thinking, right? It can
Mhm.
help you and it can assist you in certain things. And I think it's really great at that, right? It's a co-pilot, right? It's not the end-to-end solution, to use the branded term. But as far as like devs that are just getting started. I think it's such a good tool for that. It's
Mhm.
so good. Again, we mentioned in the demo that I have never coded a browser extension in my life, and I was able to do it within an hour. I know CSS, so that, like that part was at least handled, but the fact that I had friends that were like, hey, I'm reviewing these documents, or I have to read a lot of
Mhm.
research, and it's really hard for me to read all of
Mhm.
this for whatever reason it may be, and able to kind of work with them on the scope live and build that just was so
Mhm.
cool. And I know that a lot of other people have used it to help learn complex functions, myself included. I'm more of a front end developer than a back end developer, so I often use the explain this to me
Mhm.
function. So yes, I think absolutely it'll be a really helpful tool or tutor for new devs. Sorry, I took a lot of time on that one.
No, so Jesse and I talk about this a lot and the philosophical, and obviously this is a very high level. There were other speakers today, keynotes and other people that will be touching on this topic as well. And keeping the humans in the loop is critical. From somebody, I'm taking a little bit of different perspective as a researcher and PhD researcher on education of accessibility techniques. So exactly what you're saying, and the whole knowledge gap between the higher ed and academia and the industry. And it is a very well-known issue that we're still facing today. People in academia aren't being taught about accessible code in the way that they should be and at the depth that they should be. So I really think of this as an opportunity, as a teaching tool to, again, check things out. And again, if you have the right prompts, right, you have to put caveats and anything, but inherently it's not a bad thing. It is just how you use it. So I really think of GitHub Copilot as an opportunity to educate those junior developers or people coming out of academia who are going into industry, and really kind of cementing that knowledge and saying, okay, yes, this is correct. Or, the one thing I do see it a lot saying, use HTML instead of ARIA. Like I see a lot of like HTML focus, which again, we want to see and use HTML whenever we can because of the built-in browser support for the ATs already, right? Versus throwing on an ARIA and not quite understanding what that means. Um, ARIA, all the things, right? Don't do that. And we've all seen code like that where people are trying to help, and what they're actually doing is making it more difficult. So having an opportunity and a tool to say, okay, yeah, I've looked at your code. This looks great. This is accessible, but these are ways that you could improve the accessibility, or this is more robust, or this is more inclusive because it helps with additional ATs and AT support. So again, I love it from that aspect. That's kind of what I'm the most excited about as a researcher.
Wonderful. I'm gonna choose a question that doesn't have we have about 1 minute left, so I just want to choose a question that's probably quick answer. So, will future versions of GitHub Copilot Chat have a feature that allows you to save frequently used prompts into some kind of prompt library for future reference?
We're not directly on the GitHub Copilot team, but I wouldn't be surprised if they had something like that coming. That's all I can say.
I mean, that could be something everyone requests, and if everyone's asking for it, then it might get shot to the top of the queue for development. I love the feature team is probably already yelling at me in the background. It's like, don't say
No, no.
that.
It is great though, and just one quick thing to note on that, like the prompt that we mentioned in the demo and in the blog post, if you're doing a lot of work, in the workspace that day, you can periodically ask, like, "Hey, are you still referencing my
Mhm.
prompt?" And it'll tell you yes or no, basically. So it's
Oh,
not like
cool.
you do that prompt every single time you ask it a question. Just think of it maybe session to session at the moment.
Mhm.
Awesome. Well, thank you to Carrie and Jesse. This was a great session. A friendly reminder to everyone that the conversation on our community Discord can be continued. If you haven't already, you can join via the link I'm going to post in chat here in a second. And be sure to share experiences on social using the hashtag AxeCon hashtag. And enjoy the rest of AxeCon. Thank you so much to the speakers.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
everybody.